Hello and welcome. I'm Rawia Alami and this is the Dailies, where we take a look at important news stories, reports, analyses and articles published in newspapers and media outlets across the world. Most international newspapers led with the fatal shooting at the Jerusalem bus stop, where 5 people were killed in an attack that has intensified security concerns across the city. Attention also centered on Ukraine following the largest Russian drone strike since the war began, which for the first time damaged a key government building in Kiev. U.S. media focused on President Trump's ultimatum to Hamas and local headlines as well, like the major ICE raid at a Georgia factory. In the UK, chaos grabbed front pages as London's tube strike brought the city's transport system to a standstill. Most newspapers reported today on the largest Russian drone attack on Ukraine since the beginning of the war that took place Sunday night. Russia launched 805 Iranian-designed Shahed exploding drones and decoys across the country, killing 5 and damaging a key building in Kiev's government district for the first time. The press described it as the latest Russian offensive among a series of relentless attacks despite peace talks, causing a significant shift in mood, according to recent polls. Ukrainians who believe the country should fight until victory has dropped sharply from 73% in 2022 to just 24% in 2025. But contrary to popular opinion, Scott Harper wrote in the Kiev Post challenging controversial or conventional analysis of the war and arguing that experts often use outdated metrics to assess Ukraine's progress. The article claims Ukraine's strategic attacks on Russian infrastructure, manufacturing, command posts, railways and refineries are crippling Russia's capacity to fight, even as ground gains remain limited. Harper also commends Ukraine for innovation in drone and missile production and notes increasing Western support. He also contrasts Ukraine's targeting of military assets with Russia's attacks on civilians. The review highlights the author's belief that inflation and logistical chaos are eroding Russia's war effort and morale, while Ukraine's capabilities steadily grow. Ultimately, Harper asserts Ukraine's resilience and strategic wisdom are already tipping the balance, predicting a collapse of Russian momentum and eventual withdrawal. All Israeli newspapers covered the fatal shooting on an Israeli bus in Jerusalem, killing 5 and injuring 10 this morning, while many published special reports and analyses trying to explain how the Houthis managed to strike Israel's Ramon airport with a drone despite the country's sophisticated air defenses. The Jerusalem Post, for one, published an analysis noting that the Iran-backed group used diversion and surprise, firing multiple drones from different directions, with Israel intercepting 3 but failing to treat 1 as a threat, leading it, of course, to hit the airport terminal. The report also highlights vulnerabilities in detection with human error and misclassification rather than technical failure cited. The airport, smaller and less defended than Ben Gurion, was an easier target, and the piece underscores the broader risk, warning that the Houthis can exploit gaps in attention and that similar attacks are likely if defenses are not recalibrated. The analysis calls for Israel to adapt and recognize the evolving drone threat from Yemen. To the Wall Street Journal, which, like many other American press, focused on the massive ICE raid at the Hyundai LG battery plant in Georgia. The journal analyzed in its editorial the impact of this raid, describing it as the largest single-site immigration enforcement action in U.S. history. Nearly 475 workers, mostly South Koreans, contracted for manufacturing and training, were detained for suspected visa violations, alarming company officials and straining U.S.-Korean business ties. The piece also highlights how the raid disrupted construction and triggered concern about the future of large foreign investments, with Hyundai and LG pledging full cooperation. Federal officials claim the raid aims to ensure jobs and legal compliance, but critics argue that such enforcement risks hurting American economic growth and labor markets. The editorial presents the dilemma faced by employers who struggle to staff major projects while navigating complex immigration laws. The New York Times, on the other hand, investigated the deepening crisis at U.S. public health agencies led by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The analysis outlines Kennedy's rejection of official CDC COVID data, replacement of senior health experts, and also vocal criticism of vaccine safety. The piece details how Kennedy's actions have eroded trust, led to policy confusion, and also drawn condemnation from scientists, lawmakers, and even his own family. Even though Kennedy says he wants transparency, critics say his spread of false claims and conspiracy theories has divided public opinion and damaged trust in health or key health agencies. The analysis highlights a growing division in vaccine policy across the states and the emergence of outside efforts to resolve reliable health guidance. The Washington Post published a report detailing House Speaker Mike Johnson's retraction of his claim that President Trump was an FBI informant in the Jeffrey Epstein case, a statement that stirred controversy and confusion in Washington. Johnson clarified he was reiterating a victim's attorney's remarks about Trump helping expose Epstein, not claiming formal informant status. The ongoing debate comes as lawmakers push the Epstein Files Transparency Act to compel public release of documents on Epstein's network. Also, emotional testimony from victims and bipartisan calls for transparency have fueled demands, even as Trump dismisses these efforts as a Democrat hoax. The article also highlights deep divisions. Advocates want clarity and accountability, while political leaders, including Johnson, seek to distance Trump from direct involvement amid questions about his past relationship with Epstein. All British newspapers reported today on the London tube strike, causing chaos across the capital. While most papers continued to cover the aftermath of Angela Rayner's resignation as Labour's deputy leader. The Independent published a report spotlighting the political fallout as a result, plunging the party into a new contest for its second highest position. The report charts the race as a pivotal battle for Labour's future. Left-wing figures and Starmer loyalists fight for influence, with candidates like Emily Thornberry, Annalise Dodds, Shabana Mahmood, Dawn Butler, and Rosanna Allen Khan, all named as possible contenders. Richard Bergen and others from the left push for a fair member-led selection, while Starmer's team favors a controlled process to avoid internal tensions. The article highlights how the rules for the contest remain unsettled, emphasizing the stakes for the party unity and leadership. Crossing to Australia, the Herald Sun, like most newspapers, covered the landmark sentencing of Erin Patterson, the so-called mushroom murderer, who was convicted of poisoning 3 family members and attempting to kill a 4th with a meal laced with death cap mushrooms in Victoria. Patterson received life sentence imprisonment with a non-parole period of 33 years, making her only the second woman in Australia to receive such a sentence. The report also details Justice Bale's remarks about the cruelty and premeditation of Patterson's crimes, likening the case's severity to notorious offender Catherine Knight. Defense arguments for parole were rejected, with the judge citing Patterson's lack of remorse and also the devastating impact on both the victims' families and her own children. Patterson maintains her innocence and has 28 days to appeal her conviction. And we'll end with Axios, which published a report revealing that the Trump administration plans to make the U.S. citizenship test significantly harder, including a potential essay question and tighter scrutiny of applicants' good moral character. Officials aim to give immigration officers more discretion in judging candidates, also with new guidelines covering factors like community involvement and stable employment. The review also notes how immigration advocates warn the new process could allow bias and arbitrary rejections, risking discrimination. The administration claims these changes are needed to enforce integrity and combat fraud, but critics argue that narrowing the legal paths to citizenship may lead to more lawsuits and also further politicize the system. The article highlights the tensions between law enforcement priorities and concerns over fair access for future Americans. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.